All right. Hopefully you can see that. This is my Google spreadsheet that I've made of the current players that are offered to go to Clemson. Chris Alexander, I didn't miss your question there. He says, "How do you guys feel about DJ this year?" We're currently on a different subject, so I'm gonna try to come back to that. So hold me to it. Hold me to it before we leave. All right. So what I have done is over the past, I don't know, 6 months or so, I started creating a spreadsheet that has Clemson player, or not Clemson players, but high school players that are currently in the 2023 class that are offered by Clemson. And I have slowly tweaked it over time, and I've separated it by position. And I've started to add in little emojis because, I'm a graphic design kind of freaky here. So I like to add in the fun little emojis. But if you've noticed, I started out adding a little tiger emoji. Then I added a little fireball emoji. I basically went off of what I saw on Clemson 24/7, which is free access there. They get the little tiger if they've committed to Clemson. They get the fire if they're currently warm or warmer, according to 24/7. And then I say 247. I think it's 24/7. I don't know. I'm not saying it right. 24/7. Yeah. And then I just recently added in the stars, 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. And today I went through and added in the snowflake. Now, Houston, I know you're scratching your beard thinking, what does a snowflake mean? Well, the snowflake means that they are cold. It means that I have researched that player and they have either come out and said Clemson is not in the hunt, or they've come out and said they're top 5, top 10, top 7, top 8, top 4, and Clemson was not in that group. So obviously, if you're not in your fancy Haynes Fawcett graphic, then you're ice cold or you're a snowflake. And if you're not a Clemson fan, then you're a snowflake too, probably. We'll just talk about snowflakes as a bad thing. All right. So looking at quarterback, I think nobody has any shocker there. I think what we'll try to do is every week, if it's significant enough, we'll touch base on this. And if you follow us on Twitter at the Morgan P Show, this is on our Twitter account, and Houston at Radio Guy Houston. He comments on stuff like this too. So Houston, you should reshare it. So either way, you can see it. But the quarterback position is pretty cut and dry. Clemson's already got their man. He's from Alabama, Vizina. And then you have Arch Manning, who was originally their guy they went after. Obviously, Arch Manning said, hey, Clemson's out of the mix. And so he is there. So we're moving on with that, right? Now, running back. You've got 3 running backs offered: Richard Young, Justice Haynes, Cedric Baxter. Here's my first concern, something that we heard about on the radio on Mickey Plyler's show this morning after Paul Strelo came on and talked about the running back. Everybody wants to talk about what's happening at running back. There's a lot of fans that got in on the text line, Houston, that are saying they're concerned about CJ Spiller's progress as a recruiter. If you look here, there's 3 snowflakes there. That means that Young, Haynes, and Baxter have all come out, and what I can find online, Clemson is not in the mix. Is that cause for concern for you? And also, if you're in the chat, let us know what's your are you concerned or not too? We want to know what you think.
I mean, on surface level, you can say, "Oh, it's concerning." I'm not going to get too concerned with any of these positions until really it gets close to signing day. This isn't going to be a situation there. I feel like you would be naive to believe it's going to stay at 3 offers. And if it does, maybe I'm naive, but I have a feeling that in the next 3 weeks, you'll see 2 or 3 more offers go out, maybe even more. They're going to get some guys in camp, names like Sam Singleton, Jeremiah Cobb, Jarvis Green. There's another name I can't remember for the life of me, but there's a few running backs that they've been talking to. Another kid out of Florida that was just mentioned, not Robinson. I can't remember his last name. There's going to be names pop up and that aren't even on here, and that's the thing. Like, you got to realize running back is one of these positions that you might not know about a name. We didn't know who Andrew Paul was until right before
later. until later. It's not always good to be late on the game, though.
No, but at the same time, Clemson found the guy. He didn't get many major offers until Clemson did. And then
according to JP Priester, June 3rd visitors, no running backs on the list.
And I feel like that might be something that they take into the year. Like it's not something that you have to focus on right now, because I'll quote what Allen has said offline, is it's not necessarily a primary concern because it's a wide receiver game. It's not a running back game. If you get a great running back, awesome, great. You got Travis Etienne, we got spoiled to it. So if you can find a solid running back out of this, awesome. It doesn't have to be right now, and I'm not very concerned.
All right, so we'll move on to the wide receiver position. You got obviously Ray Joseph, Nathaniel Joseph, wide receiver, committed to Clemson, even though Miami seems to be making a very heavy push here. Now, Houston, I had shared my concerns, with Mario Cristobal coming in, that I was concerned that Clemson is going to have more pressure. But you have reassured me in the past that Clemson has always dealt with guys that were seen as high-level recruiters. So Mario Cristobal added in the mix is really no different than what they've had in the past, right?
No, I'll say this. There's nuance with this one. I know that it's the perception is he's going to decommit, and he could. I want to preface that. Like, I'm not going to say Nathaniel Joseph will be in a Clemson uniform next year. I don't know. You don't know with the recruiting. It's recruiting. I'm a recruiter in my day job. You don't know some things that are going to happen. And so I think the thing that we got to realize is the biggest pressure isn't coming from Mario Cristobal. It's coming from his head high school coach, who, if you've never heard of Luther Campbell and Two Live Crew or never seen the You documentary, he's in that. So have a person who's been pushing for Miami for all of his players for a long, long time.
Luther Campbell
is his coach. And so I don't know. You just got to know that Nathaniel Joseph might really want to go to Clemson, but he's under an
he committed. He was the first ever commit for this class. So he's got to want to go to Clemson at a pretty high interest level there.
Yeah. And so he's under an incredible amount of pressure. And that's kind of how I see this as. Could he? Maybe. We'll know probably in a few weeks. But I just want to put that out there. He's being scrutinized from more than just some college coaches.
Brent Jones says, I know who Tulai Crew is. Come on now, Luther Sky Campbell. All right, so for the wide receivers, again, on the offered side, you got Brandon Ennis, the guy that decommitted from Oklahoma. I assume a lot of the big schools are in it, but Clemson doesn't seem to be in it in his newly posted, not newly posted, but his post decommit post of his top schools did not include Clemson, even though he was offered originally. So I put a snowflake there. Noah Rogers, really no indication from him right now. Christian Hamilton, no indication. Tyler Williams is got a warmer rating from 24/7 Sports. So Tyler Williams is one we probably should do a video on. And then Ronan Hannafin, also don't really know. Do you agree with the Tyler Williams heat right there from 247?
Yeah, I mean, none of these guys are over. Like, everybody thought Noah Rogers was out of the mix, but apparently he's a little bit more open to things. It's going to be kind of a crapshoot through the summer as far as who's visiting where. Tyler Williams could be a guy that commits. We just kind of have to see where it lands with some of the Florida schools, with him being in Florida. I'm going to say this pretty much for every position. The board is going to expand for most positions. So don't be surprised if you see a handful of names pop up for wide receiver as well.
I'll be honest with you. When you look at the past, they do stick around 100 or so, give or take, every year. And they right now have 83-ish, give or take, 81 on 247, 80, I think 83 or 4 on Rivals, depending on who you go with what the offers are out there, which is kind of weird that one site has more offers than the other. I don't know why. Some people might have more insight than others, or maybe one's old or not. I don't know, updated or not. I tried to use the mix between two because I got a lot of backlash on Twitter that when I only used 247, a lot of things were wrong. So then I went to Rivals and updated it. So I tried to use 247 star rating, but Rivals roster and current totals. Okay, so going on to tight end, we've got Reed McKeska here, who, again, we talked about earlier on in the show, is probably going to want to go and visit Oklahoma, which would cause some concern there. We will wait to see. We've already talked about it. Deuce Robinson, Jelani Thurman, and Jackson Howard have all talked about how they enjoy Clemson and have them in their top schools. I don't see any tight ends listed on the June 3 visitors from JP Priester over at allclemson.com. So I'm not really sure what's going on with tight end. And as a Clemson fan perspective, to me, if I'm a tight end player, I want to see more production from the tight end. I think you will see it this year with Brenningstool getting older and, being more experienced. And I think he's skilled enough to and we saw in the spring game, he got a lot of looks from Cade Klubnik. So I like what I see, or what I feel like is going to happen with Brenningstool.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Brenningstool, and once again, the board will expand. Jelani Thurman's a name that I'm intrigued in. To see the conversations with him, he seems really excited about Clemson, even though he's a Georgia kind of legacy player. I don't know how many tight ends Georgia is taking or have taken. I'm sure that they'll try to figure out a way to strong arm their way into that recruitment. But you never know. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see McKeska stay on board, but it's good to get that out of the way if he wants to go visit. And
John says isn't McKeska wanting to go on an official visit? That's not just a visit.
Yeah, well, yes and no. I mean, it is a visit. It's one of those that Dabo was saying that I don't want you going unofficial. As far as that goes, or an unofficial. But
Casey Cregan gets in over on Facebook, says, what's the draw to Oklahoma as a tight end? I don't really understand the McKeska lure there. Other than location, maybe.
I mean, I guess you could say Andrews and Stogner came through there. That's been pretty good, but
came through there.
Yeah, I mean, they're not.
Andrews was a good tight end. Tore both his calf muscles. Now isn't he at South Carolina now?
Yeah, he's at South Carolina. Andrews was a good tight end. He's with the Ravens. But that's really the only tight end that I know of that's come through Oklahoma. I don't.
Well, the good thing is on the offensive side, you still got a lot of openings there. We already know we have basically they're going to have to start offering more running backs. We know that for sure. The running backs that they have already offered are basically off the board. But the rest of the board is kind of open until you get to offensive linemen, and you got a big mixture here. Luke Montgomery already committed. Sam Pendleton going to Notre Dame. Joshua Miller committed to Penn State. We are hearing now that Sullivan Absher, who was originally a crystal ball to Clemson, is now crystal balled to Notre Dame. And so all indications are he's a snowflake and going to go to Notre Dame. So eventually we assume he will be in the red line there with Sam Pendleton. So that Clemson has now lost out 2 offensive tackles to Notre Dame, which was cause for some frustration this morning over on the Mickey Plyler show. But when you look down that list, Monroe Freeling, we really don't know yet. We really haven't seen anything. Olaus Alainen does not have Clemson in his top schools, so he's a snowflake. Zachariah Owens is crystal balled and is warm rating on 247. But get this, Houston, Owens is crystal balled by 3 guys from the Big Spur. And
so we're talking about Zachariah Owens as far as his commitment as well. Sorry, I'm looking up the 13th offensive lineman commits name right now because they just offered a kid 5 minutes ago.
5 minutes ago. Okay, well, this is not up to date as 5 minutes. I'm sorry, everybody in the chat.
They just offered Stanton Rammel, 6'7", 310, number 9 offensive tackle out of Alabama. So sorry. So Zachariah Owens could be. I would say I'm surprised that he seemed impressionable at first, but he's coming to the official visit on June 3rd. I feel like that's a chance to maybe even seal the deal.
Yeah, let's go back to that June 3rd visitors. You've got Ian Reed, Marquis Anderson, Zachariah Owens, and Harris Sewell as far as JP Priester's allclemson.com list.
Yeah, and those three are honestly the most that I'm intrigued with. I mean, Monroe Freeling, if Clemson's able to land him, awesome. Love it. If they're able to get this Rammell kid, awesome. I love it. But the three that are coming are the three that I'm most intrigued with. I feel like with Zechariah Owens, he's a monster. He is a big, big body offensive tackle that if you're able to get someone of that stature and nature, I think that's going to be awesome for Clemson. But the two out of Texas are something that I'm really keeping an eye on. Clemson is able to go out to some of these places that you wouldn't expect Clemson to be able to have prevalence, but they're able to just flip that switch and turn that interest for a couple people that are able to vibe with what Clemson's selling. And I think Ian Reed and Harris Sewell. Harris Sewell is one that I thought that would not come to this. And here we are. It's June, and he's coming for an official visit. So something's there. Something's there with Harris Sewell, and something's there with Ian Reed. If you're from Texas and you're not necessarily enamored with your home state schools and you're looking outward, looking for something different, they're in the mix more than I think people want to give them credit for. So I'm interested to see. I feel pretty comfortable where Clemson is offensive line recruiting right now. I know everybody else wants to just, weep and wail and gnash teeth that we haven't got five stars already lined up, but I think they're in good shape with who they're offering. It's just kind of where the chips fall at this point.
Again, you got 3 ones that are cold on Clemson, 3 that have already committed to other universities, and then you got 4 that are hot and visiting, and then 2 that are up in the air and we'll have yet to see and know anything. Again, this is all based off of stuff we've gotten as we do our Google search here. Going down, and we're going to transition over to the defensive line or defensive side of the ball. Now, this is where a lot of people gave me flack on Twitter that I didn't have it right. I went based off of 247's list, and they had guys at a defensive line that were not defensive linemen, that were actually more edge guys. They had guys at edge that were outside linebackers. So I just went to rivals.com and switched it up and went off of their roster positions, and it overwhelmingly loaded it to the defensive end, weak side or strong side defensive end, and left only a few defensive tackles. So before I had like 9 and 9, now I have like 17 and 3. So it's a big lopsided here, which I don't know if this is right or wrong. We can try to correct this as we go, I guess.
Yeah.
But
I think
when we look at the defensive ends here, we've got David Ojebwe is obviously a commit that we just recently got. And then the rest, you got a giant list here with a ton of guys that are on fire here. Houston, everybody's asking about Vic Burley. Is there anybody else that we should be looking at other than Vic Burley that you like?
I would say, first off, Vic Burley and Peter Woods are probably, in my opinion, they're going to be more defensive tackles. Maybe I've completely misread that situation, but
wait, say this again.
Vic Burley and Peter Woods, I thought they were going to be tackles.
Well, see, now they're defensive linemen on 247, but then on Rivals, they're strong side defensive ends.
I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I mean, they're cross training like offensive linemen do anyway. So, I mean, at this point, just load up like that.
In the chat, let me know if you're watching. Would you rather me do it like this or do it like the other way, where it's like edge and defensive line, where defensive line is basically anything and edge is your actual edge guys?
Okay. Well, just going back to this though, I mean, you got a heavy haul coming into June 3rd with a lot of these guys, and they're all interested. And that's the best thing to hear. Like, you're in the mix with a lot of game changers. And rightfully so. You're losing out a ton of guys. Well, if you're able to land half of these guys, that's a solid haul. And I'll be honest, this board could grow as well. You're going to have some chips fall one way or another where you might land a lot of guys, but a few guys might go to Texas or Alabama or whatever. So you're probably seeing a handful more of offers for this position at the end of the summer, just because that's kind of how Clemson goes. If they get the majority of this done, they'll have a handful of spots they can maybe get from going into the season.
John Sarian says Stanton Rammel and Peter Woods are teammates, I think.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Ooh, something.
He also says, I heard it pronounced Ojabe. Well, I'm telling you, Paul Strelo said Ojebwe. So I'm going with Paul. Robert Green, I respect the process Dabo has in place, but I would hate to miss out on a great homegrown talent. He also previously says, when do you think Clemson is going to offer 2024 wide receiver Mazeo Bennett out of Greenville High School? He has moved up to a 4-star and is a playmaker. He already has 12-plus offers. Houston, I don't know this guy at all. You may know him because you're near Greenville High School. We're not talking about 2024 right now. I typically, with these type of big boards, I try to wait until we actually see offers. I try not to speculate because I leave that job to Paul Strelo and the experts out there that speculate. I try to look at the guys that are for sure offered and look at what's for sure out there, what we can find publicly, and make assumptions off of that.
I feel like Mazeo Bennett is going to be one of the first offers when they officially start doing it here in 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. When it hits June 1, I think Mazeo Bennett is going to be somebody that gets an offer right off the jump. Jaden Davis at Providence Day and Charlotte's going to get an offer right off the jump. I want to say there might be a kid from Silver Bluff. Travion.
Where is that at?
Silver Bluff is down in the lower state area. They're a 2A school. I want to say he might get an offer as well. His name's Travion Dunbar. Smaller back, but I want to say he's going to be like an upper 3-4-star type back.
Why are you not getting paid to discuss this kind of stuff, Houston? I mean, the knowledge that you have, you need to have your own site.
Oh, no. I'm literally relaying. Well, I have just heard things that normal people can look up online, and I'm able to pull that from my mind.
All right. So, we're looking through this. David Hicks, no indication. Mateo, no indication. No need to even go there with that. Peter Woods got some heat. Vic Burley heat. Jaquavius Russell does not have Clemson in his top 5 or 4. I can't remember. Damon Wilson, no indication. Desmond Omeozulu, no indication. Kelby Collins does not have Clemson in his top 5. Derek LeBlanc, no indication. Keldrick Falk is actually, I believe, coming to camp on the third. Yep, he is. And then Hunter Osborne is warm. Rico Walker, nothing. Colton Bassick, TJ Searcy, AJ Hoffler, and Darren Reed. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys right now hot. Let's go look at JP's list of defensive linemen. Searcy's coming, Bassick's coming, Falk's coming, Osborne's coming, Hoffler, Woods, and Collins. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defensive linemen coming in June. Somebody says very bleak recruiting news today.
I don't know why it's very bleak.
I mean, I guess maybe the McKeska stuff, I don't know.
Really. I don't know. I wouldn't call it bleak. It's early. Like, I look at this and I look at the defensive line. And
so John says no one seems to know what's going on with McKeska, if that's what you're asking. I guess that's maybe what he's talking about. All right, going to the defensive tackles. Really, if you go by the defensive tackles that are on Rivals, this is what this list, I adjusted it. Now I'm starting to hate it. The more I'm talking through it, I might even go back to the way I had it before and just forget the Twitter haters out there. But you've got three defensive tackles, and you've basically missed on all of them because Jordan Hall, Jamal Jarrett, and Keith Sampson, the 2 don't have Clemson in the list, and 1 has already committed to Florida State. All right, now moving on to linebacker. Now I do like this because of at least the positions outside linebacker, inside linebacker. But you got 2 there that don't have Clemson. The 2 top guys for outside linebacker and inside linebacker don't have Clemson in their top, Malik Bryant and Anthony Hill. But then you got two inside linebackers that really seem to be warm over Clemson. That's Troy Bowles and Grayson Howard. And Christopher Perez says, "Go back to the way you had it before." I will do that when we get off this. And then for outside linebacker, you have Jamal Anderson. So, and I also moved to Celia Kana, who was on 247 as a defensive end. Rivals has him as an outside linebacker. I'm not sure who's correct or not, but I'm just going with that. And so that's the list we have there. Really no indication of any kind of linebacker. Right now, any linebackers coming, you've got Jamal Anderson coming and Tony Rojas.
And I want to say D. Creighton might be coming as well. I don't think he's confirmed yet, but I think they're back on the I don't know yet as far as that goes. I feel like those three are probably the biggest names, and maybe Grayson Howard, although I think Grayson Howard's probably going to end up at South Carolina potentially.
Grayson Howard, okay. And then cornerback got two crystal balls, which I had Braxton Myers as a safety, but now I moved him to cornerback. I don't really know again. So crystal balled to Clemson, warm. Braden Marshall, warm. AJ Harris, warm, but I haven't heard anything about him. Tony Mitchell recently came out with his top teams, and Clemson wasn't on it. And then Brandon Strozier, who Paul Strullo was on Mickey Plyler's show and mentioned that he could be the next one to join the Clemson ranks. Maybe, maybe not, but so he's also crystal balled publicly from 24/7 Sports there. So two really they look pretty good as far as cornerbacks go right now, at least with the look of interest.
Yeah, I think Braxton Meyer is going to end up at USC unless he's able to swing some things with this upcoming visit. I think they've actually heated back up things with Avion Terrell. Not saying that's going to happen or not.
Okay.
I know that there were some issues that they had there. Braden Marshall seems to be heating up.
Jordan Bowman gets in on the chat, says he also thinks USC for Myers.
Yeah.
When you say USC, you mean the Gamecocks?
No.
You mean the actual, you mean the pay for play USC on the other side of the country?
The one that's more palpable to handle calling USC. That's the one. That's one that I say.
Avion Terrell, obviously, AJ Terrell's brother.
Yes.
He was offered, one of the youngest players to be offered by Clemson. Dabo doesn't normally offer like a freshman. I think in high school he did. So, or was it a sophomore at that time? I don't know.
Sophomore, I think. Yeah.
And then safeties, I got Caleb Downs, warm. Dakari Nelson, warm. Ramir Stewart has already released his, and Clemson's not on it. Jaden Bonsu, not on it. And then Robert Billings, no indication.
I feel like that's going to be one that the board gets expanded, or someone on their corners are actually offered as a safety. It would not surprise me. Caleb Downs is one that I'm curious. He's made two unofficial trips to Clemson kind of randomly, unannounced. Well, I wouldn't say unannounced, but the public and the media were not aware of. And then all of a sudden Caleb Downs is in Clemson just chilling with Mickey Kahn. And so I don't know, like, you don't do that. You don't do that and not have some interest. I think Caleb Downs could be someone that, if he's still available going into the season, if Clemson comes out looking like gangbusters going into, say, Notre Dame, and they look good, he could be someone they could end up getting.
And then you've got your athletes there: Nichols Harbor, Jonel Aguero, Lewis Carter, Bryce Thornton, Musa Kane, Kalen Webb. Three of those guys, Harbor, Aguero, and Thornton, have come out with a list saying, this is their top teams, and Clemson's not on it. Now, Harbor they had a video of him running at a track meet, and at the end it said he's listed his two between USC and Michigan, and then he came back and said, no, I never said that. But it's kind of clear to me that Clemson's not in the mix no matter what. So I went ahead and put a snowflake for him too. But so three athletes there listed that don't really have Clemson in the mix as well. So again, there's a big mix of guys that seem to be very interested in Clemson and that are signed up to come in June and visit. But then there's definitely a lot in there that Clemson needs to decide what they're going to do. Are they going to replace the ones that are definitely not coming with new offers? And Houston, as you mentioned, as we get further on into the the summer, there has to be more offers to come out.
There will be. I mean, I'm just saying, go through camp season, and that changes a lot of things, not just for this class, but for 2024. You get a first glance at what they're looking at and kind of who the hot names are going to be. I know they've already offered 2 guys as sophomores. There'll be more coming here in about 3 weeks. So the main thing I want to point out is don't buy into the narrative of bleak recruiting nature. It's recruiting. This is someone who, I don't say where I work or anything, but I work for a very, I would say for our industry, we're like the Alabama of recruiting, and we still don't get people that we think we can get. It's not the end of the world. And this is May, when you've got something, like as fickle as college recruiting, it could flip on a dime. You could have an amazing June 3rd visit, and half these guys might commit. Like within a few weeks, it could change the course of this class. Just be patient. And likewise, there are names on this list that won't be added until the middle of next season or the end of next season that could turn into game changers. Like, I don't know, Travis Etienne or Isaiah Simmons or names like Kayvon Wallace, guys that were late additions before signing day. It is a marathon and not a sprint. So just don't buy into the narrative just yet.
Stanton Rammel, 6'7", 310, 4-star overall, 19th best offensive tackle out of Alabaster. What is up with Clemson and Alabaster? They keep going to the well there. That is like, to me, Alabaster is like going after Daniel High School. I mean, it's not easy because that's kind of like, that is like most of the time. That's like Lakeland, with the way Florida and Lakeland is, the pipeline, Alabaster guys usually that Clemson has gone after, they haven't been able to land. So maybe the luck can change with this offensive tackle.
We'll see. I mean, you always got to take a swing when they come from Thompson High School down in Alabaster. At Thompson, the best way I can say what they are, they're probably an equivalent of a Dutch Fork or a Dorman or a Burns. They're a known high school name and they produce talent. So, I would say just take a shot.
All right, I put him in there. Stanton Rammel, 4-star offensive tackle. Now we have 13 listed there. He's not even on 24/7 right now as a offer from Clemson. So it's still very fresh out there. Recently offered on May 6th by South Carolina, Arkansas on May 6th, and a few others. He now has a total of 27 offers. Currently, one prediction on Crystal Ball to Auburn, but that was a while back.
Mm-hmm.
Big dude. I think that's important for Clemson to continue to try to go after these big dudes on the offensive line. You got to be bigger than the others for sure. Mm-hmm. All right. Al Kuhn says, great recruiting info. Y'all are best with all that you do. We really appreciate it, Al. We appreciate the support. Houston, you got any more to add on the recruiting board? I'm going to go back in here. I'll fix the defensive line since everybody hates it.
No, I don't think there's anything else I have to. Just stay patient. That's the main thing. Like, there's no reason to get bent out of shape yet.